Hello and welcome to our Sunbelt Baseball podcast with Matt and Ty, and legendary coach Ty Harrington is with us again. Coach, did you have a great baseball weekend?
I did. I had a lot of baseball all week, and but on the weekend I had Friday night at Texas State with South Alabama. Texas State winning game one, and then game two on Saturday. They played earlier. It was like almost like a brunch game. We played at 11 a.m. and South Alabama rebounds and gets a great pitching performance and holds on and wins on Saturday. And then Sunday, I was in Austin doing radio with University of Texas and TCU. Did not get to see the last game, but I saw where South Alabama got another great pitching performance and was able to hold off Texas State at the end again and take 2 out of 3 on the road. It's not easy to do.
Yeah, I had the Georgia Ole Miss series, all 3 games on SEC Network Plus. Bulldogs ended up winning that series 2-1. First-year head coach Wes Johnson, who had been the pitching coach for LSU last year when they won the national championship, is making extraordinary strides in a real short time with that Georgia program. And Charlie Condon, who may or may not be the number 1 pick in the MLB draft. If he's not number 1, he's top 5. Belted 2 more home runs. You know, he's got 26 for the season. He's tracking towards 38 in the regular season. It's been a phenomenal story to follow. I don't know which is bigger, the Georgia Bulldogs or Charlie Condon. They're both equally big in what Condon's been able to do. So it's been a lot of fun.
Well, certainly a guy like Condon will make Wes Johnson a better coach in a hurry. And
Yeah, absolutely. And he knows
right.
that. And he's smart enough to know that.
Yeah, we as coaches understand we all have limits, and
Yeah.
our best accelerator is our personnel, and particularly guys like that.
Yeah, fans like to think it's about the X's and O's, and that's a big part of it too. But I mean, one of the best coaches of all time, certainly in the era in which we live, Nick Saban said it's about the players. And it's about getting the best players and putting them in position and maximizing. That's part of it. Part of the coach's job is maximizing the ability of the players that you get. And if you get great players, maximizing greatness certainly puts you in a chance to win championships. So.
Yeah, no question.
Coming up here in episode 4, we're going to talk to legendary Coastal Carolina coach Gary Gilmore. Speaking of greatness, going to take a look at the top stories, and that includes the Chanticleers taking 2 out of 3 from Louisiana over the weekend. And we're going to name our Sunbelt starting 9 and a pitching staff for this week. I've expanded our bullpen a little bit, and the Ragin Cajuns LP Langevin just continues to dominate. I'm starting to think, Coach, he could end up being the conference pitcher of the year.
Well, I know he's certainly trending in that direction, and he would tell you that he's definitely the relief pitcher of the year. I mean, I think what happened, they've been able to use him on Friday and Sunday, and they weren't able to do that this weekend. And they ended up, on Friday, I watched the beginning of that game, and Coastal jumped out to a big lead in the first inning. And so that they never really got a chance to use him in game 1.
Right.
And so then they go into Saturday or the game 2 going, we got to win this. So they go to him and they win. And then obviously not able to use him in game 3. So, which is what they've been able, to do in some of these past series. But I thought it was a clash. We talked about this last week. I thought it was a clash of, I would say, the top pitching team in the conference right now and the top offensive team in the conference right now getting after each other. And as you saw at the end, I don't know if you got to see the end of it, the tying and go-ahead runs were on base for Louisiana when Coastal got the last out of the game. You wouldn't expect anything different in a series like that, where one or two things goes your way, it goes against you. You can win the series or you lose the series. It's certainly what they got. And it's going to be fun to watch both those teams go. Both have really tough games this weekend coming up as well.
Indeed. The Coastal on the road at Creighton, and we're going to hear from Gilmore in a little bit. He's already out there, and they're hosting Troy, and the Cajuns host Houston Christian and their coach, Lance Berkman, who might be the best player on that team, jokingly, and he's the coach and been retired from Major League Baseball for a while. And then they got Southern Miss coming to their place this weekend.
Those are two really important series.
No doubt, those are shaping. Those are going to end up shaping the standings. Yeah. So, the Just to put a bow on what you were saying, in that opener. The Cajuns very uncharacteristically committed 5 errors. They walked 8 guys. They lost the opener 9-1. And because they had weather coming in, they played a doubleheader on Saturday, and that kind of spoiled their routine with Langevin. They won the game that Langevin pitched, which was game 2, and then the game that you were mentioning where the Cajuns had a chance to win it there later, at least tie it. The Chanticleers ended up winning 12-10 in the finale. So our next big story of the week was, how about James Madison? They sweep Georgia Southern in Harrisonburg, and their RPI has now surged to 23, and their strength of schedule is 12. The Dukes have positioned themselves to be a 2 seed in the NCAA regionals. They're now 10-8 in the Sun Belt, and they are tied for 5th in the Sun Belt standings with Georgia State.
I tell you what, and
I've just tried to get a little more acquainted with that team to find out a little bit more because of what you just said, because of their RPI value and what they've been able to do. That whole universe, what they've been able to do as an athletic department. Look, and I was, and I didn't get, and I'm guilty, right? I'm not familiar. We had played a whole lot of, James Madison, and until they moved into the Sun Belt and started paying a little closer attention to it. And then certainly softball, I think, went to the World Series a couple of years ago. They won national titles in football, but my goodness, what they've added to this league, and now we're talking about their RPI at 22, and I think is a credit to that university, and also what they're doing, obviously, because we're talking baseball, what they've done and what they did this past weekend with Georgia Southern, who's a good baseball team as well.
Yeah, they've had a huge impact. You mentioned football. Men's basketball won the conference championship, got an NCAA tournament win, and then now they're making waves in baseball. They have 4 home sweeps this season. First time since 2005 they've done that. And they're going to host Maryland midweek, and then they travel to South Alabama this weekend. That's a South Alabama team you got a chance to see firsthand. Looks like they're starting to get Mark Calvey's starting to get his pitching straightened out.
I think so.
I've never experienced what I saw. I say never. That's not true. You've been around this game long enough. Crazy. That's you never say the word never in baseball, by the way. But
right.
It's unusual that you see Texas State and South Alabama played. Both had their Friday night starters, different Friday night starters, and then Saturday and Sunday, or game 2 and 3 were TBAs. I think everybody's trying to, not everybody, I think a few people are trying to figure out what their, starting rotations look like, reversing it, trying different things to find that magic combination that helps them, because you're running out of time, one, to make sure you're getting into postseason, but once you get to postseason, to have that pitching lined up and to have it ready is so important. And then, and actually, in the South Alabama-Texas State series, it was pitched well. Now, the weather played in because the wind was blowing in at the stadium. There were probably a handful of balls that were hit that traditionally may have got out of there, but didn't this weekend. But it did look like Mark and them were able to get their pitching in a little bit better situation and threw the ball really well. And I think that's the combination. He's had a rash of injuries with his position players and pitching side of it. So this past weekend, 2 out of 3 on the road for them were huge.
Yeah, they dropped the opener 6-3 and then held the Bobcats to 3 total runs in the next 2 games. And that's big because that means that Texas State and South Alabama look like they're going to be battling maybe for a spot in the tournament. So right now, the Jags are in the 10 spot. They would be in. And the Bobcats are in the 11 spot. They would be out. And the Jags have the tiebreaker right now, too. South Alabama this weekend, they're going to be, let's see who they got. They got James Madison. They have no midweek. They're going to have James Madison this weekend. As we mentioned, Texas State hosts Incarnate Word and then plays at Arkansas State, which is always a tough place to play. You never know what the weather is going to be like in Jonesboro. But let me ask you this, kind of going back to what you're talking about there with the pitching. Does it seem to me that more and more we're kind of going towards, that Tampa Bay Rays format where, the dominant starting pitcher who's going to go 6, maybe even 5, 6, or 7, now it's turned into a let's piece it together kind of thing for a lot of teams?
What's interesting about that?
Yes. You're seeing more and more of it. Different looks. You don't get to, you hear coaches talk all the time. one of the very first things that will come out of a pitching coach's mind or a manager or a head coach's mouth is in the middle of the game about the fourth or fifth inning is, hey, it's the third time through the lineup. Well, how are we going to pitch to them third time through? Because they've already seen, the hitters have already seen how you attack them. They've already seen how you're trying to get them out. And they've also, if they've had at least 3 to 4 pitch at bats, they've seen everything you've got in your arsenal. So what you do see are guys starting to piece it together more to give them different looks. In the case of Louisiana, they go from an 86-mile-an-hour left-hander, 88-mile-an-hour left-hander to a 94, 95 right-hander. That's a 1.5 foot difference in a fastball that your timing and rhythm has got to get to. You'll see some of these guys go for 3 outs with, maybe a right-handed 3/4 arm guy to face 2 out of 3 hitters being right-handed to gain 3 outs. And every out is valuable. But to answer your question, yes, I think there are guys now that that are trying to piece it together and piggyback game. There was a time in my career, and we were able to do it for only 1 year. We were able to get 7 innings, 6 innings, and we had 3 guys lined up, 1 on Friday night, 1 on Saturday, and 1 on Sunday, and there were 2 guys that were going out there and pitching in every game. Now, that never works out as you plan. When I say never, it doesn't always work out as you plan, but at least it is a plan that you can use, and I think that's what some of these guys are doing now.
Ideally, how many guys do you want? You want 5, 6 guys?
Yeah,
realistic. Ideally is not the word. Realistically, what can you really count on? To have 6 guys going into a weekend between your starters and your relief pitchers, maybe 7.
Yeah, and then you have a guy that's your 5 up, 5 down guy. What that means is if you're up 5, you got a guy you put in there. He's going to give up hits, but he's going to throw strikes. You got to play defense, and if you're good defensively, you'll take your chances. And then you got a guy, that same guy, or somewhere similar, could be the 5 down guy, where you go in there and that he's going to throw strikes and give you a chance, maybe throw up 1, maybe 2 zeros, allow your offense to get back in there, cut the game in half. Then you decide, of that 6, what direction you go to use them and who to use.
All right, Troy takes 2 out of 3 from Georgia State. That was the matchup of the teams that were tied for second going into the weekend. Troy clinched the series with a 10-7 win on Sunday. Brooks Bryant hit a grand slam. That was the big hit in that series on Sunday. That was a series that got all messed up because of rain, but they were able to get in all 3 games, so good for them.
Yeah, I got to watch the end of
was it game 2? I think it ended with 3 outs to go, and they had to call it, and they had to pick it back up the next day.
Yeah, it had to finish it on Sunday.
Yeah, to finish it on the next day, and I know some other teams had to do the same thing around the country because those big round of storms that went through there. But Troy, man, they've been kind of just slowly but surely going up and getting better and getting better and better. Georgia State, as we talked to Coach Strombaugh last week, a very offensive team. And so for Troy, they needed to win 2 out of 3 at home against a really good Georgia State team who was having a good week, and also I think had a big midweek win and before it as well. And so we kind of pays that as one of those series to pay attention to. And it certainly, I think for Troy, they keep trending and they keep heading in the right direction. And it may make some noise over the last 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, their RPI is climbing, and they're at Coastal, so that's RPI boost. And then they got Southern Miss after that. It's either, or maybe Louisiana after that. Anyway, they are set up to where their RPI is going to get big boosts over the next couple of weeks here, and especially if they're able to win. They're going to get big boost in their RPI. Louisiana.
Right.
Yeah, they got Coastal. They just playing them boost. Winning on the road and all that kind of stuff. So they're at Coastal, and then they have Louisiana coming to their place in back-to-back weekends. So you survive that, get some wins. Their RPI is climbing significantly. We'll talk about the RPI picture a little bit later on. Georgia State's got Alabama State, Presbyterian midweek, and then they've got App State coming to their place. And you got to figure there's going to be a lot of runs scored between those 2 teams playing at Georgia State. The rest of the results from the weekend, Old Dominion took 2 out of 3 at Marshall. That's the first road win series of the year for the Monarchs. Kyle Edwards drove in 5 runs in their deciding game victory. App State won 2, tied 1 at Arkansas State. They ended up having to suspend and make a tie out of that final game because of travel curfew situation there. But C.J. Boyd hit a big 3-run homer to tie the game and send it to extras. So that saved them from a loss, ends up being a tie. And Southern Miss takes 2 out of 3 against ULM. Warhawks salvaged a win on Sunday. But Tucker Stockman, who we'll talk about a little bit later on, hit a grand slam for the Golden Eagles, as those were the rest of the results from the weekend. So,
4 weeks
left and 4 weekends left, right? And what
yeah,
we've
yeah.
got left, and
it's going to be a mad scurry to the end
as to who's going to get in the tournament. Because now you got teams that get, if you don't play well, you got teams that are going to be left out of postseason, and then a mad scurry to stay out of that 7, 8, 9, 10. Those last few spots, we got to play basically your play in to get into the tournament, and it's going to be exciting baseball for all of them. And you're going to see some teams playing with their hair on fire, because if they don't, then like we just said, they're going to miss. They're going to miss either postseason altogether, or they're going to find that hard way through it, through that play-in part.
Well, we're going to take a look at what the tournament looks like coming up. But first, we're going to bring in Coastal Carolina head coach Gary Gilmore. Coach, thanks a lot for being with us, joining us from Omaha, Nebraska, where you guys are playing a 2-game midweek series against Creighton. Thanks a lot for being with us. How do you feel like the season's going so far for you guys?
I mean, Matt, it's I feel like our kids we've played really hard. We've we got out of the gate good. We first went on the road. The two kind of coincided. We went to NC State and lost a nail biter on Tuesday, and then following that went to Appalachia State. We had 17 guys over the course of that weekend get the intestinal virus. So we were by Sunday we were kind of a mash unit, and then the next week it took those guys a good 10 days, the ones that got it. We had 17 total, I think, 2 coaches, and just something you can't do anything about. And we just had to keep going out there and playing, and it wasn't very pretty. And we kind of floundered around from that point, winning enough to keep our head above water, but not, and not being anywhere close to on the run we were on. And, you throw that on top of the fact that, we've lost 7 scholarship pitchers to injuries, and, that has really, it's really kind of taken where you thought you had tremendous depth in some different places and stuff. We're very thin, and, we have to, I have to get the old TP out and get the fire going and get a lot of smoke going, so we can throw some smoke and mirrors out there at them, and try to confuse them as much as we can. And thank goodness our offense is at least last weekend started to hit it around a little bit again. So we'll see. I mean, it's a great group of kids. On any given day, I think we can play with the majority of people on in college baseball. It's just can we do it for a long enough period of time to actually make a run in the playoffs if we can get there.
Let me ask you this:
A little over halfway, Gary, through the conference, and you've been around this college baseball as long as anybody. Describing the Sun Belt, the teams that you've played, and I know you well enough to know you're paying attention to the other teams you haven't played yet as well. Your thoughts so far about the league, at where it stands today, and what it looks like through your eyes.
Yeah, I mean, we just played Lafayette last weekend. Matt's team, incredibly talented team. We were very fortunate to win 2 of those games, and I think it's probably the most pitching depth, top to bottom, that I can remember them having outside of when they first came in the league, and Tony was still coaching, and he had Gunnar Leger and a few of them guys that that team was about 8 or 9 deep, and just absolute dudes on the pitcher's mound. And I think they're definitely a team to be reckoned with. And just after 6 weeks of play, I think the one thing that has occurred in our league is that the what you consider the teams in the league that have not been a factor in the top end have closed the gap. To be very honest with you, there's way better competition top to bottom. I mean, we played Monroe, and heck, they easily could have beat us 2 out of 3. We haven't played. We don't play Texas State this time, and we don't play Ark State. So I really don't know a whole lot about them, but I've watched the scores and some things. I think it's probably the most overall equality of talent in the league that's been there. I don't know that I don't think there's a super team. There's some good teams. There's not a super team that's just heading above everybody else that can't be beat.
Well, you beat Louisiana, you beat North Carolina in the midweek before that, so a really good week for you guys. The Cajuns have a 4-game lead on you and Southern Miss and Troy. You're in a 3-way tie for second place. But the real story is you just want to finish top 6.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as the Sun Belt tournament's concerned. But your strength of schedule is, I think right now you're around 14-14. RPI and strength of schedule, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. Do you feel like you're in the regional conversation again to host a regional with the way things are playing out? If you guys can finish strong these last 4 weeks in the Sun Belt regular season and then in the tournament?
I mean, we'll just have to see. I mean, the opportunities, RPI wise, etc. I mean, I mean, everybody we plays, got a really good RPI. So I mean, I think the opportunities to continue to add on to our resume. You know, who knows what the other teams do? I mean, all you, like Ty's done this long enough. He knows you can only do what you can do. You can't control what the other people do. So, I think for us, it's just continue to gain momentum and you know, I mean, I love playing. I would never say I don't want to play at home, but I'm not afraid of playing on the road. I mean, at the end of the day, it's an advantage, but it's also way more expectation and way more pressure when you play at home. And not that I care about that so much, but I would love to, I'd love to end my career playing at home, but as far as having the opportunity to see if we can continue moving forward from there, but whatever. I just want to be in it one more time, see if we can show up at the end and be on a hot streak and see if we can make some noise when it matters.
When you landed in Omaha,
Oh, this is just, there's no way it doesn't enter your mind, your magical national champ. There's no way, right? And then all that, as soon as you land there and win a national title, and you got to at least reflect a little bit when you woke
Uh,
up this morning, when you got there last night.
man, I looked out we're staying in the exact same hotel. I'm in a little bit different room, but it's still. I opened the shades up last night and can see the stadium just like it was when we were here before. And as soon as that plane hit the ground last night, and stopped. I looked over it and Coach Schilling and Coach Schnall, who were with me here. I said, "You guys remember last time our feet were in this place right here? We're sitting on that tarmac, completely emotionally exhausted with a big trophy in our hand." I just, it's hard to believe. It's kind of a surreal moment, to be very honest with you.
Well, you're hosting Creighton, or playing Creighton, I should say, in a 2-game series. Is there a little something in this for this year's team? Like, this is where we want to finish the season. We're playing here right now. This is the goal to get back to this stadium. We're going to play them, and then you got a tough week ahead of you. You got Troy coming up at the end of the week, and they're 11-7 in the
Oh,
conference.
there's no doubt. No, yeah, I mean, I think for us, and it's kind of what we explained to the kids. Two factors involved. I have great respect for Ed and his team here at Creighton. They played in our tournament a year ago, and we agreed that we would come back here. And I mean, for me, it's just an opportunity for our guys. I want them to see our name up on the stadium right there with all those other schools that everybody expects to be there, and ours is the outlier in the whole group. And I want them to see that, and hopefully be something that motivates them to realize that it is a possibility. That you never count yourself out. All you have to do is find a way to get here. It's an amazing place, and it's crazy how a little round ball and round bat, how the ball bounces. So you never can count yourself out.
Well, Coach, one last
thing for me, and this is on the playing side of it now. And you mentioned you had some guys beat up on the mound. And do you get any of those guys back? Are you starting to get some of those guys back?
I mean, at least five of them are done for the year. There's nothing. They were all surgery guys, and the two we're trying to nurse back. I mean, it's been so long. It's like they're close to being healthy, Ty, and I know you can understand this and appreciate it, but it's like they've forgotten how to throw. It's been that long. So we're trying. It just I honestly don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, one of them especially, heck, he was a Cape Cod League All-Star guy that was a reliever for us, the Horn kid. We miss him tremendously, and so I just I mean, he's close to being healthy. It's just he can't. It's like his whole throwing action has it just he can't quite find where he was, to be very honest with you. And so just right now it's not competitive to put in a game today.
You're referring to Darren Horn. Let me ask you about some of your other guys here. Give them a little love on the podcast. Eichhoff, I guess, looks like he's been your most solid starting pitcher in your weekend rotation.
Yeah.
Cameron Flukie, the freshman, has been a strikeout machine for you. And then in your position players, I think Blake Barthol, your second baseman's a legitimate player of the year candidate. Sam Antonacci, you brought him in from junior college, where he was national player of the year. He's been big time for you. Graham Brown, we've been talking about this young man for a number of years now. He's coming off a big weekend against Louisiana. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Caden Bowden, your now sophomore catcher, who is one of the top receivers in the country.
Yeah, no, all those guys, man, have been great for us. I mean, we're it's the one guy that is having a good year, just not he's just not having the year he had last year. Is Derek Bender? Heck, he was he was runner up for MVP in the Cape Cod League. Guy was unbelievable for us last year. And you look at his numbers and you can't, it's there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. He just, he has the ability for the whole entire group to jump on his back and him just carry us through the end. And hopefully, I mean, he showed signs last weekend here and there of being his old self again. So as far as that part, but it's tough when you sit here and look at a guy that's hitting 325, 330 and say, that he's not doing a good job. He's one of those guys just capable of so much more, and he's kind of the guy that if we can get him going, that whole offense is as good as it's been. There's another gear. Believe it or not, there's another gear in that offense if he figures it completely out. So, we're the good part about my team is I do believe that we have room for growth, both on the mound and position player wise. It's just we have to do it. I mean, we're in that point where we have to move forward, and hopefully, part of the good part about our schedule is we either going to rise to the occasion or the occasion is going to eat us up. One of the two.
My guess is that you guys will end up rising to the occasion. I got to ask you one more thing before we go.
Yeah.
We got 4 weeks left in the regular season. Then you got the tournament. Then you got NCAA postseason. Any second guess in that retirement decision at the end of the season at this point?
Nah, man. No, Matt, heck, I got, Ty knows my story, man. I've got two different kinds of cancer. I got a lot of stuff. I got four little grandsons. It's 39 years of devoting my life to this. God's blessed me to be able to do this. And, I want to honor that relationship by giving back to whatever I got to my kids and to other people that I can do stuff with.
Well, sounds
I'll
good.
say,
Thank you so
yeah,
much, Gary.
real quick before he goes, I'll say this, and I'll get a chance to tell him at the end of the year again. What you've done for college baseball has been unbelievable, and you know that. And I'm certainly proud to have been in the profession that you're in and still in. And you've given a lot of, first say, mid-majors, if that's the right word. I don't know so sure that Sun Belt baseball is a mid-major conference anymore, but you've given a lot of inspiration to a lot of teams and so, and a lot of programs to keep reaching for something out there they probably wouldn't have thought was possible. And you guys made that possible, and you made that possible at Coastal. And so certainly proud and excited for you, and I'm anxious to watch the rest of the second half of this headed into postseason.
Todd, thank you so much, and I feel the same about you, my man. You devoted your life to the game we love, and I cherish your friendship. I know we've talked about it a bunch, but I promise you, when this is over, when I get out to Texas on my times, we're going to hook up some. I want to be a better friend.
You got it, my friend. I'll look forward to it.
Same here.
I'll say one last thing, and this doesn't require your response, Gary, but you mentioned Coastal as an outlier. Coastal's not an outlier anymore because of what you guys were able to do in 2016. Just like Ty said, you've made it possible in everybody's mind that this can be done, because until you had done it, it hadn't been done. But now that you've done it, now everybody believes that it can be done. And you're also a big reason why the Sun Belt Conference is now a power conference in baseball. It's not a mid-major. It's one of the top 4 conferences in all of college baseball, right there with, the big boys who spend a whole lot more money than the Sun Belt teams have to spend. But you're right there with it, and you're a big reason why, and we thank you for that.
Well, Matt, thank you very much. Appreciate what you guys do every day. I look forward to keeping on talking to you. As long as we're talking, we're still playing, so we're good.
That's right. Thank you, Gary.
Good luck.
Take care.
Great to talk with Gary Gilmore. Coach, if the tournament started today, you got Louisiana, Coastal, Southern Miss, Troy, James Madison, Georgia State. They're all 6 seeds. And, of course, you want to win the regular season championship, but ultimately you really just want to be in the top 6 so you get that first-round bye right into the double elimination. ODU, Georgia Southern, App, and South Alabama are the 7 through 10, so they're in the play-in to get to that double elimination. Right now, Texas State, ULM, Marshall, Arkansas State are in the bottom 4, and they would not make the tournament field. So that's how things stand right now.
A lot of baseball left between
Here and there, and it's going to make some, like we were talking about, it's going to make for some interesting and really intense baseball this last month.
Okay, from an RPI standpoint, update on that, and I always feel like you got to be at least 50 and inside of that. But we've seen instances where that's not necessarily the case. We've seen teams inside the top 50 get left out. We've seen teams, outside the top 50 get in. So, but right now we'll kind of work with that. Coastal's 13 RPI, 13 strength of schedule. James Madison 23 and 12. Louisiana's up to 44 and 119. They got a bump there, got a nice bump from that Coastal Carolina series, even though they didn't win it. And Southern Miss is at 51 and 67.
Yeah, we people
Like to use the word mid-major. Like they do, right? And where I'm going with this is, just hang with me for a second. I just think that the Sun Belt baseball plays as a Power 5 top baseball conference.
Oh, yeah.
I do. So when you start talking about these RPI numbers, there's still a lot of the teams with a better RPI with going to collide and play, and they're going to have an opportunity to make that RPI better. And I think that as this thing goes in this last month, there's several teams, we talked about this last week, that still have good Tuesday games left, a few, and also to scoop up whatever RPI value is still left in that. And I think it used to be you get in some leagues the last month, you went like this, even though maybe you won or whatever it is, because the league RPI wasn't very good. Not the case here in altogether. And that's why I think that you're going to still see the Sun Belt trending upward in the right direction.
Yeah, and all these teams here, I think, still have a shot to really move up because of what you just said right there. Old Dominion's at 59, Georgia State's at 66, South Alabama 67, Georgia Southern is at 68, but they're below 500 now, so they got to get that straightened out. You got to finish over 500. And Troy's at 72. I think all those teams, are still in the mix, as far as NCAA tournament conversation. They're going to have to win games, obviously. That goes without saying, but they're all in the mix.
Yeah, some of those Tuesday games.
You're going to see, if you didn't use your closer on Sunday, you might see him out there for 6 outs or 9 outs in some of these Tuesday games now, as opposed to early in the year you may not have.
All right, Coach, let's do our starting 9. I'll go through our starting 9, and then you can make a comment about them. And then I expanded our pitching this week. So we got 3 starters and 3 in the bullpen. So we're going to go with our starting 9 position players right here. We'll go catcher Tucker Stockman for Southern Miss. First baseman Drew Holderback for App. Second baseman Blake Barthol for Coastal Carolina. Shortstop Kyle DeBarge for Louisiana. Third baseman Wyatt Piper for James Madison. Outfielder Graham Brown for Coastal. Banks Tolley for App, who tied the single-season home run record for the Mountaineers. Long way to go, so he's going to obliterate that. He's at 17 home runs already for the season. Fenwick Trimble, who seems like he's on this list every week for James Madison. Yep. And Xavier Maranta is going to be our DH for App. All those guys just had great weekends for their teams.
You start looking in there at
the extra base hits, the RBIs, and the success of the weekend. It's not ironic. It's the way the game analytically is played out and how it happens. But a lot of these are repeat names. A lot of these guys are guys you and I have called games for a year ago in postseason. And so we get a chance to recognize, who these guys are and how good they are. And it's not, you keep looking in the middle of that infield, the Bars and Barthol and those guys, their names seem to appear often enough or in discussion often enough. And again, if you took these 9 guys and went out there and played somebody this weekend, you got a pretty good chance you're going to win with this bunch.
No doubt.
And with the new guys in your 9 this week, tells you the comprehensive value of the Sun Belt and the great players that are in this league.
Shows you, no doubt. Starting rotation, we're going to go with right-hander Riley Eichhoff of Coastal Carolina. Of course, we just mentioned him when we were talking to Gary Gilmore. Left-handed pitcher Donovan Burke of James Madison. And then right-handed pitcher Billy Oldham of Southern Miss. It seems like he keeps popping up on this list every week.
Yeah, he does. And
it's interesting in this week with JMU, after they're having a great weekend, obviously well represented on your 9, and certainly well represented on the mound as well. But you're right, Billy Oldham, who you and I've seen before, and his name keeps popping up here, and I caught the same way. And look, this time of year, we talked about this last week. This time of year, you're either getting guys back off of injuries, maybe from early injuries,
or unfortunately,
you've got some guys who are injured, which makes it even tougher for them moving forward down the stretch. Depth on the mound is tough, and one of these days, you and I are going to have a conversation with him to hear about the trend of there being so many injuries and the discussions that are around the country right now about it.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it's not just college baseball. It's in the major leagues where some of your frontline star pitchers are already sidelined for the year. And the thing about it is when they get these injuries, they're not just sidelined for this year. They're sidelined into portions of next year. It could be 2 years before those guys are fully back to, maximum capacity if they ever are. So I don't know what the answer is. Maybe you do. If you know the answer, Coach, I'll piggyback with you because
I'll build a billionaire, not it's a billionaire if I can figure it out.
No doubt, and that's not even an exaggeration. Bullpen, got 3 guys in the bullpen. I did this quite frankly because LP Langevin is so dang dominant. Langevin, yeah.
I've not heard of that guy. Who's that guy?
Yeah, he's been our closer stopper every week, and he is again. He puts up 10K in 5 innings of work. That means he faced, no runs, no hits in 5 innings of work. So he faced 15 batters and struck out 10 of them. Didn't allow anybody on base. Golly, this guy is something. You know, when he comes in the game, opposing coaches are just shaking their heads. Might as well just bag up the bats and time to go home. But he's in our bullpen. Left-hander Max Cool from James Madison had 2 strong appearances. He makes the list. And right-handed pitcher Trent Buchanan of Old Dominion makes the list as well. All those guys, scoreless ball, strikeouts, long appearances, not short 1 inning stints, but long, covering a lot of innings on the back end.
Yeah, and he get in there with 2
appearances in your 5+ innings, then that's grueling. That's including getting loose twice, in between pitches, all the above, and you got to be physical enough to be able to do that. And obviously,
that's tough. You think that's tougher than a 5 inning start because of all those things you just said?
Oh yeah, that's
100%. Because you pitched, and I don't have the total of what the first outing was, but if it's 5 2/3, you pitched, let's just say 2 innings in relief, got up, threw in between, won, feel good, wake up the next day, or 24 hours later, get your work in, get ready to go again for the day after that, maybe the third day. Yeah, I do think it's harder, and I do think it's a challenge, and to do both. But I think I definitely think that's more of a challenge out of the bullpen.
Yeah, because those starters, they have their routine. They know when it's coming. A relief pitcher, you're just sitting down there waiting for the phone to ring. Get up, get hot. You got to get in the game. So, all right, let's look ahead to the weekend. The 2 big series this weekend that's kind of a no-brainer. You got Southern Miss at Louisiana, and you got Troy at Coastal Carolina. And those are the top 4 teams in the conference standings right now. It's going to kind of shape the way the rest of this regular season plays out as far as tournament seeding.
100%. 100%.
And it'll be fun to watch, fun to pay attention to. There's a lot of things that are going to come out of this weekend as far as maybe one of those teams either staying where they're at or pushing themselves closer, however you look at it. After this weekend, there would only be 3 weekends, 9 games left as to what that looks like for somebody as well. So I'm excited to watch some of this. And then, look, that's exciting because that's your leaders. But down there, that second quadrant, it's going to be a boxing match too this weekend. It's like we talked about earlier. People are playing with their hair on fire to try to make sure that they get in the postseason.
Yeah, those guys down there are like a bunch of wild dogs down there scrapping for meat. I mean, they're trying to stay in the tournament. So there's no guarantees once, especially the bottom half of this conference right now. Those guys it's everything to get into that tournament. Nobody wants to play into that. No one wants to play in the play-in unless you're out of the tournament and you're happy to play in the play-in, right? I don't want to.
There's about 4. There's about 3 or 4 of them that would happily love to be in that play-in.
Can I get in the play-in? I want to be in the play-in. So yeah, exactly. So, Coach, it's great to visit with you again. We had a good show. Great to talk to Gary Gilmore this week. And hey, if you like the podcast, subscribe to it there on YouTube so you can get notifications when our next one drops. We do it every week, and we're looking forward to it. The tournament's fast approaching, Coach.
Approaching, and I
want to say this: you enjoy your week in Florida. I think but I know you're going to be watching games left and right. And number 2,
yep.
If anybody's watching this, watch the interview with Gary Gilmore. Truly one of the most unbelievable guys in college baseball. He's done so much for college baseball, and truly one of the great gentlemen of this game.
Absolutely. Talk to you next week, Coach.
You got it. Thank you.